Hi, everybody, and welcome to In Trust with Nicole. I'm Nicole Israel. I'm an estate planning attorney here in New York and New Jersey, and here to answer all your questions about estate planning, trusts, and wills, and anything around that topic. I know we took a few weeks off there, but happy to be back and answering, again, any questions you have regarding estates. So we'll get right to it. And the first question today comes from Jeff. And Jeff is asking, what is probate? So that's a great question, Jeff. A lot of people really don't know what probate is. And, unless unfortunately you've been through it or you're in this line of business, this is definitely a very common ask. So what is probate? So you might hear or read a lot that the point of estate planning is to avoid probate. Probate is simply a court system. It's a court system, and every state has their own probate court system where a judge says who's in charge of an estate. So if you pass away, who's in charge of making sure that your assets go to the heirs who are legally entitled to them? It's also the court system to make sure that if someone, whether it's a minor child or incapacitated adult, has someone else that a judge has selected to be in charge of that person's assets and that person's medical decision making. So the probate court, one way to think of it is that it's a plan, so to speak, for those without a plan. So if you haven't done estate planning to avoid probate, you're leaving it up to a probate judge to figure out who's in charge of your finances if you're incapacitated, who's guardian of your children if something happens to you and you leave minor children, and who's in charge of getting your assets gathered and inventoried and paying your creditors, and ultimately distributing your estate out to your heirs. That's where a probate judge is having to fill in the gaps. Now, probate is not a must when it comes to estate planning. You can try to avoid probate with your estate plan if you sit down to actually put these things in writing ahead of time. But to the extent that any estate planning you did online or do it yourself missed a few key components, or to the extent you didn't do an estate plan at all, then probate is kind of the fill in the gap for your plan. And, it's also important to keep in mind that probate is kind of a long-term experience. It could go over a year, especially in our area of New York and New Jersey. And it could also be very costly. It could be up to 5% of your total estate. So that's something else to keep in mind. And so, Jeff, I do hope that answers your question. Again, feel free to follow up. Email me, info@NicoleIsraelLaw.com, or even feel free to schedule a consultation with me. I'm at NicoleIsraelLaw.com/schedule for a free 15-minute consultation. Again, happy to answer all your questions. Please send them my way. And thank you all for joining today.